So remember, surface area is basically like you're wrapping a box with wrapping paper. You're trying to figure out the area of all the sides and then you're adding them together. So we're finding the area of all the sides and we are adding them. So adding is really, really important. You need to find the area of all the sides and then you're adding them together. So we have a rectangular prism and we're trying to find the area of all the sides of each of the faces, of the rectangular prism, and then we're adding them together. So we have the length of the rectangular prism is 6 centimeters. The width of the rectangular prism is 4 centimeters. And then the height of the rectangular prism is 8 centimeters. So we also talked a little bit in class about nets, which this right down here at the bottom is a net. And all a net is pretend like this rectangular prism is made out of paper. You are taking that rectangular prism, kind of just like we did in class, and we are unfolding it. So this down here at the bottom is what this rectangular prism would look like if it were unfolded. It's just a really nice way to easily see all of the different faces that we have. So I'm going to kind of show you how they match up. So this bottom face right here, go ahead and say what you think the dimensions of that bottom face are. Okay, if you said the dimensions of the bottom face were 6 by 4, you would be correct. So let's pretend that this face right here is the bottom face of that rectangular prism. So if this face is the bottom face, it would be a 6 by 4 rectangle. We should have another 6 by 4 rectangle in this rectangular prism. We would have one on the top as well, because we know that a rectangular prism, all of the opposite faces have to be exactly the same, which means that if this were folded, if this rectangular prism were folded up, this one right here would also be the same size. So we have one rectangle that is a 6 by 4, and we have 2 of those. So we have 2 of whatever that area would be. We have 2 of those. Now we also have this side over here. And what do you think the dimensions of that side would be? If you said you think it would be a 4 by 8 rectangle, you would be correct. So this, if we're pretending this is our bottom, this one right here is our bottom, then this blue one that I just shaded in would kind of fold up onto the side of that. So that would be a 4, and you can even see right here, all of these up and down lines are all 4, a height of 4. So we know this side would be a height of 4, and then this one would have a height of, or a length of 8, or a width of 8, or whatever you want to call it. So this would be a 4 by 8 rectangle. We also have another one of those on this side. So that is another 4 by 8. And on our net, that would be right here. So we have 2 4 by 8 rectangles. We have 2 of those as well. And then our last rectangle would be this, the one in front and the one in back. So we have 2 of those. I know it's kind of getting hard to see. On our net, though, it would be right here. And what do you think the dimensions of that rectangle are? If you said a 6 by 8, you'd be correct. Also on our net, you can see that kind of the sides that go together. So this one would be 6. These 2 sides would match up together. These 2 sides would match up together. So if this side is 8, this side also needs to be 8. So this last one would be a 6 by 8 rectangle. And we have 2 of those as well. So now that we have all of our rectangles, the dimensions of all of our rectangles, we can start adding them together. So if we have a 6 by 4 rectangle, I'm just going to change colors to make it less confusing. Change it to black. We have a 6 by 4 rectangle. What is the area of a 6 by 4 rectangle? 6 by 4 rectangle would be 24. A 4 by 8 rectangle would be 8 times 4 is 32. And a 6 by 8 rectangle would be 48. So if I add all of those together, if I add 24 plus 32 plus 48, that would be 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 8 is 14, and then 1 plus 2 is 3, plus another 3 is 6, plus 4 is 104. So we have 104 square centimeters. These are always square centimeters because we're measuring area. So those are always going to be squares. But I don't think that's all of our area, is it? Because each one of these, we had 2 of all of those shapes. So we just found 1. If I multiply 104 by 2, though, I would very easily be able to find the surface area of the whole thing. So we could have square centimeters. You could also write that as 208 centimeters squared with that little 2 up top. We learned about exponents, and square centimeters would mean centimeters times centimeters, which would be centimeters squared. And I know most of you probably also realize that you could very easily take each of these areas, multiply it by 2 first, and then you could add those all together. So it really doesn't matter. Whichever you prefer to do, you should get the same answer. Okay, so the next shape, so that's how you find the surface area of a rectangular prism. Now, if we were trying to find the area of a triangular prisms are very similar to rectangular prisms. The only difference is that the base of the shape it has to be a triangle. At least one of the sides, or at least 2 of the sides, have to be triangles. So if we have this rectangular prism, this would be it folded out as a net. So basically you cut this side right here, these 2 sides would come down, and then the 2 triangles would come down as well. So that's what that would look like. So we're going to just start trying to match up sides. This bottom side, what do you think the area of that bottom side would be? And if you said a 5 by 7, you would be correct. So this is a 5 by 7 rectangle. And how many of those do we have? Actually, you can't even tell because I forgot a number. So if this one is a 5 by 7, this length of this rectangle, I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see now that I'm using black. This rectangle is another 5 by 7. This rectangle in this case is another 5 by 7. So all 3 of these are 5 by 7 rectangles. And we have 3 of them. And then we also have 2 triangles. So these 2 triangles, the base is 5 and the height is 4. What is the area of a triangle that has a base of 5 and a height of 4? Okay, if you think that it would be 10, you would be correct. I'm guessing that a few people probably said 20 because they know that a triangle is base times height, which is true. But base times height, that would actually give us this entire rectangle, or the entire rectangle that goes around that triangle. We're just looking for the triangle. So if we're doing base times height, which is true, we need to divide that by 2. So 5 times 4, which is 20, divide that by 2, our area would be 10. So we have 2 of those triangles. We know that each one of these triangles has an area of 10. So 2 times 10 would be 20. What is a rectangle with an area of 5 times 7? Okay, that would be 35. So now we have 3 times 35. 35 plus 35 plus 35. That's another way you could think about that, which would be 15. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1. So that's 105. So now, kind of thinking back to the way that we just did it, we now have what the 3 rectangles would be, their area, and we have what the 2 triangles would be. Now we have to do is add them together. So 105 plus 20 would be 125. And that would again be square centimeters, or you could also say 125 centimeters squared with a little 2. I hope this helps a little bit. I hope you were able to follow along. Thanks for listening.